few years ago, we were at a party and we were watching a hockey game, and there's a group of us there at the house, and a couple of us were really focused on the game, and the Red Wings were down by 1. So just near the end of the game, they scored to tie it up and force overtime. And so a couple of us were really, really excited. We were jumping up and down and kind of shocked that they had scored. And then at a party, there's usually that one guy who's always trying to sneak chips and dip when no one's looking. So there was that guy who came around and was really confused, trying to figure out what had happened and all of that. And then there were a few people there too, like my wife, who were like, "Oh, they scored. That's great. We're going to watch more hockey. That's awesome." So there's kind of just about every human emotion possible represented in the room, and it was really funny. And that's kind of how I look at the book of Psalms. There's just about every human emotion possible represented throughout the entire book. And maybe you don't know anything about the book of Psalms. Maybe you've never been through it before. That's okay. But as we've been kind of reading through some of them here and there through Twitface Institute, it has been really, really cool to kind of see all the different emotions. And the book of Psalms for me is something that when I'm not really sure where to go with my relationship with God, when I'm not really sure of the words that I can say to Him, I look to the book of Psalms. And I open up, and a lot of times I see pretty much the words that I was trying to get out are already written there for me. And it's written by a handful of people going through a handful of different situations. And it's very, very cool to see that I'm not the first person to ever go through what they're going through. In Psalm 139, we have David writing here, and he kind of starts out with this idea of, "Search me, God." Which that's kind of a scary thing, because he starts out right away. There's vulnerability there. He's kind of saying this. He's saying, "God, you know me. Talk to me. Show me the things that I can improve on. Show me the things that are taking me away from you. Show me the things that I really need some help with, that I struggle with." And that's kind of, again, a very, very scary thing for a lot of us. For me it is, I know, oftentimes. And then he goes on a little bit to write that, "God, you know me, and you're always there. I can't get away from you. No matter where I go, you're there." And for me, that concept was kind of creepy early on. That idea that God is always there no matter where I go. There's this internet meme called "Overly Attached Girlfriend." And if you were to search it, you'll see a weird picture of some girl, and there's usually some words next to it. And one of the things says, "I wish I was your socks so I could walk with you every step of the way." And it's just really bizarre and really creepy, and you don't really know what to do with it. And I'm not referring to God as an overly attached girlfriend or anything like that. I'm not making a statement like that. But what I am saying is that the idea of God knowing everything about me, that I can't get away from Him. The first time I read Jesus' words, that He knew every hair on my head, I was just really kind of creeped out, because that idea of being open, that idea of being vulnerable, that idea that He knows not just my good stuff, but my bad stuff too, and that He's there every single time that bad stuff comes up, that's a scary thing for me. But here's what else David writes. He talks about how God created him with a plan, that He knit him together in his mother's womb. That before David was even born, and before you and I were even born, that God had a plan for us, that God was thinking about us, that God already wrote our story out before we even came to be on this earth. And that's a really, really, really amazing thing when you start to think about that, and you start to know that God's just not there to cheer us on when we get it right, but He's there in our bad stuff too. And that's really, really, really amazing when you get down to it. That God has already mapped this out before we came to be, that He's already promised to walk with us before we came to be, that He's got all of this figured out, stuff that we can't see, stuff that we don't know, but we can know that we were made on purpose. We can know that we're walking in purpose, and we choose to follow Him. And David then goes on to kind of finish it off with this idea again of, "Search me, oh God. I mean, you're the one who knows me. Talk to me. Tell me about the things that I can improve on." And a couple Christmases ago, I was at my grandparents' house, and there were all these little kids there. I have a lot of cousins, and so they were all opening, like $2,000 Barbie Jeeps and all this kind of stuff. And I was in college at the time, and so they were like, "Oh, hey, Chris, you're here too, and here's a card." And it wasn't nearly that bad. But my grandparents knew that, I loved Legos, that I loved building Legos. And I build Legos, by the way. I don't play with Legos. There's a big difference. And so they gave me this little Lego car to build. And So I went off and I started building this Lego car, and I started putting it together. I was getting really excited, and about halfway through I noticed that I didn't have all the pieces. It didn't come with all the pieces that I needed to put together this amazing Lego car. And so I started building it, started getting a little bit more frustrated, was looking for the pieces, maybe I dropped them, and they just didn't even come with the set. And so I ended up not being able to put together that car the way that it was designed to be put together because I didn't have all the pieces. Now, I'm not calling you a Lego because I'm pretty sure that's offensive on some level. But I am saying that God wants to put together our pieces. God wants to make this beautiful masterpiece out of us, and that He's designed us and purposed us to walk in His steps, and He's promised to guide us, and He's promised to be there everywhere we go. And so a lot of times it's really hard. I don't know if I'm not God, but I imagine from my Lego building days that it's really hard to put together that perfect puzzle. It's really hard to put together that life that He really does want the best for us. It's hard for Him to work with all of the pieces when He doesn't have all the pieces. A lot of times we're afraid to be like David here. We're afraid to go, you know what, search me, God. There are things that I know I'm getting wrong. Can you point them out to me? Can you help me out here? Can you show me what's taking me away from You? So it takes us being willing to take all of our pieces and bring them to the one who created us, the one who knows us, the one who loves us, the one who can take our broken pieces and fix them, the one who can take our messy pieces and wipe them clean, the one who has the master plan.